Hello and welcome to the Main Cave. Now in today's video, I've got the 8BitDo Ultimate Wireless Controller to be looking at. Now before we start, do you say 8BitDo or 8BitDo? I personally go with the official pronunciation of 8BitDo. Now this version of the 8BitDo Ultimate Controller has just come out in the UK and it cost me £55 on a pre-order deal from Amazon. It's the Bluetooth and the 2.4 GHz version with the switch configuration button layout. If you look this up, there is also an Xbox style variant for Windows and Android which comes in a bit cheaper, but that one doesn't have Bluetooth. I will at some point be getting that one and compare it, but for now this video is just focusing on this version. Now if you do want to jump to different places on the video, have a look in the description below because I've put timestamps in there for you. After a few days use, I can safely say this is absolutely a direct shot at the Nintendo Pro Controller. Other controllers do try to compete, but none look, feel and work as well as this one, the Ultimate, which in my humble opinion outdoes the Pro Controller in pretty much every way. So in this video I will be going through the unboxing, the build quality, the buttons and the trigger use, the thumbsticks, the connections, the software, the dock, would I choose the Pro Controller or the Ultimate Controller, and finally, things I hope to see in the Ultimate version 2. So when it arrived, I unboxed it and I pretty much got what I was expecting. A very well packaged kit with all that was needed. The controller comes with some paperwork, a USB cable, 2.4 GHz dongle and the dock. It's this dock which is one of the things that excited me most about before receiving this controller, and I'll go into that in more detail in a bit. The controller itself is the usual 8BitDo quality. It has a beautiful balance to it. This white version isn't actually bright white, instead it has more of a dull white hue to it. It weighs in at around 240 grams or 8.5 ounces, which is only 10 grams or 0.35 ounces less than Nintendo's official Pro Controller. It's entirely made of plastic, and on the rear shell is a grippy texture which feels great in the hand. It's slightly thicker than a Pro Controller, more akin to say like an Xbox controller, but the width and the height is almost identical to the Pro. On the front we have the asymmetrical thumbstick layout, D-pad, usual face buttons with X at the top and B at the bottom. In the middle is a home button, underneath the minus, star and plus buttons, and below that the profile button, and finally at the bottom 3 LEDs signalling what profile you are currently using. On the bottom are 4 status LEDs, on the top are the analog L2 and R2 with digital L and R, and a USB charging port in the middle, flanked by a power LED and pairing button. On the back are 2 paddles labelled P1 and P2, and in between them is the Bluetooth 2.4 GHz switch, and finally the contact charging points. When you use this controller, you'll find that the face buttons are all excellent. The X, Y, A and B all have a nice feel to them with a semi-click giving you enough feedback to know you've actually pressed it. The D-pad, as you can see, is a little bit wobbly, but I found this didn't really detract from when using it. If you've used an 8BitDo controller before, you may be used to this as it is very similar, especially to my SN Pro controllers. The triggers all work well. The analog triggers have a nice decent tension with 8mm worth of travel. On the rear, the paddles are superbly placed for it to be a natural position. They protrude ever so slightly so you can instantly feel where they are, and with enough pressure to not accidentally press them if you rest your fingers on them. Overall, I have zero complaints about the buttons, and if you're used to any sort of 8BitDo controller, you will find that this continues their fine form. So to go back to the thumbsticks for a bit, it's here where 8BitDo have pushed Nintendo because they have the Hall effect thumbsticks. If you didn't know what that is, there is a clever system whereby there's no actual touching of materials, so no wearing down, so essentially stick drift is a thing of the past. Only time will tell, but it's promising. I've never personally had stick drift with my Pro Controller, but that doesn't mean it won't happen. As for Joy-Cons, I can't tell you how many I've binned due to drift, so any innovation on this is very welcome. The thumbsticks don't feel any different to past iterations. They're responsive, snappy, feel quality, and later on we'll see how you can adapt them to your preferred style. The 8BitDo Ultimate can connect to multiple devices, including the Switch and the PC, which is Windows X input. For wireless connection, it uses the 2.4 GHz dongle, and one nice touch is that you can save space in your PC. You don't need to have the dock and the dongle both plugged in. Just plug the dock into your PC and the dongle back into its little housing underneath, and the dock acts as an extension, meaning only one USB port is taken up on your PC. For the Switch, you can connect to the dock using the USB dongle. I've also successfully paired it up to my iPad, my iPhone and my Android phone, which appears on all of them as a Pro Controller. I did have an issue switching between iOS and Android one after the other, as I had to repair each time I wanted to swap. But good news though, if you do make changes on this one device with the software that we'll talk about later, such as on my Android phone, if you sync that to the controller, this is reflected when you use it on another device, such as the iPhone. All information is stored on the controller itself, and I'll talk about that next. And if you're wondering, I couldn't make this controller work with the Steam Deck no matter what I did. This may change with a firmware update on either the controller or the deck. Just keep an eye out. So as I mentioned, there's the software. There are two ways to customize your controller, and that's through the software and through the app, and I'll briefly be going through both. The app is available for a lot of 8BitDo controllers, so if you've used this before, it won't be anything you're not used to. For the phone app, simply down the 8BitDo Ultimate Controller app from the App Store or the Google Play Store, then connect the controller to your phone via Bluetooth. Open it up and instantly recognises your controller. Then you get the choice to change settings for Switch or the PC. In this example, I will select the Switch, but if you want to use the Windows X input, choose Windows. In the next screen, you can see you have two options: button mapping and more settings. It's easier every time to hit more settings, as button mapping is within here too. The initial menu is just simply for a shortcut really. So click more settings and it's here where things start getting interesting. Down the left is your options. The profile to save your current setup as one of the three swappable profiles. Buttons, here is where you can map everything, and I mean everything. Any button on the controller, including L3 and R3, you can just map to be whatever you need. Next is sticks, where you can change the dead zones, invert them, swap them, and even replicate the D-pad. Triggers next, where you can have a full control over sensitivity, or you can swap them if you like. Under that, you can adjust the vibration. There are 6 levels of feedback, with one of them being off. Next is macros. Choose your button of choice, then which button will be activated when pressed. Finally, in settings, you can update the firmware if one gets released. Then once you've gone through everything and you're happy with how you want it, save it to one of the 3 profiles, and on the controller you can switch between these on the fly using the profile switch button on the front. You don't need to connect the app to swap them. This is a huge feature. The app is absolutely stacked. It has so much customization, I can't see how anyone would feel like they can't make the controller feel like their own. And as I said earlier, you can also use this on the PC with their app, and it's absolutely identical. Just plug in the controller via USB or use it wirelessly with the dongle, then download the Ultimate software and you get exactly the same settings as we looked at before within the phone app. All changes made will be saved onto the controller, not your phone or your PC. So as I said earlier, if you make changes on your iPhone, save it to the controller, then plug it into a PC, you'll see all the changes that you have made. Now onto the dock, and yet this is another reason to get this controller. The dock is a fantastic addition, giving the controller added value for your price. The controller almost always falls into place onto the dock. It is the same off-white colour as the controller, and on the bottom is a large rubber footpad which helps it stick to the desk. And as we mentioned before, this houses the dongle and has a lovely white LED that spans all the way across the front. This indicates that you've placed the controller onto it and it starts charging. When the controller is seated, it looks like one piece, merging the lines between dock and controller beautifully. On the rear is a single USB-C port. On the top are the 3 prongs in which touches the controller to charge it. As before, we said you can plug this into a PC for wireless gaming, but what I've done is I feed the cable down into a USB hub into my socket. It's just easier that way for me. Then the dongle goes into my PC. I can't tell you how good this looks on my desk. It's so smart and so convenient just to pop on when I've finished, and I know that it will start charging immediately. Now, comparing the Ultimate controller to the Nintendo's Pro Controller, for me, there's no contest. Everything I loved about the Pro Controller, such as the battery and the comfort and the feel, is beaten by the Ultimate. The battery on the Ultimate lasts 22 hours with only 2 to 3 hours charging, and it feels just as comfortable as the Pro. But the Ultimate controller just takes it to the next level. The dock, the compatibility, the software, all for a price almost as cheap as the Pro Controller. The Pro is currently around £60 in the UK, and the Ultimate, particularly this one, is similar at £55 or cheaper for the non-Bluetooth version. If you need a new controller for your Nintendo Switch or even your PC, remember to look at the button layout for your preferred option, then the 8BitDo Ultimate controller is a must-buy. But is there anything I would change? Well, to be completely selfish, I just wish they'd start making controllers for the PS5. Other than that, if you get this controller, you will not be disappointed, and I haven't yet found a negative with this. That was my look at the 8BitDo Ultimate controller. Let me know what you think. I think this is an absolutely fantastic controller and well worth picking up. Links to everything you need is in the description below. Please do like, please do subscribe, until the next video. Bye bye.